What are the most important things that happened to the Celtics in Abu Dhabi? The big men, Jayson Tatum shot, Sam Hauser. It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Thanks to Blockbuster Brand, it's holiday season. Drop Drew in the mix, and 3 from KP. No, we not on the Knicks. Flushing competition like Al on Giannis. Juice and Big Deuce, still Beantown's finest. Banner 18 going up in the rafters. Watch the C's game in locked on after. Karalis on the breakdown. Clutch like a tip from D. White on the breakdown. John on the mic, documenting domination. Matter pen a back bay, it's all C's nation. Rain and Jace, how we started raising business. How we finish. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. Peace.
Hey there. Welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I got you covered every Monday through Friday. Bonus podcasts when they play on the weekends in the regular season. So I'm sorry, I'm not doing bonus podcasts after back-to-back preseason games, but I will have a podcast covering both on Sunday. So make sure you're subscribed. Get onto the YouTube page. That would be a nice thing to do. Get into the comment section and let me know what you're thinking about the Boston Celtics, who got back on the floor, played basketball in Abu Dhabi. They are back in Boston now, taking a few days off before they hit the practice floor again Thursday and Friday, heading into that weekend. If you're new to the show, I am John Karalis. I've been covering this team for about 20 years. Now I'm doing it for Boston Sports Journal as a beat writer. I've written a couple of Celtics books, which you can get on my website. Built Different celebrates Banner 18. It's a good gift to get. We're heading into the holiday season, so stock up on Built Different, autographed, personalized, great gift. So pick one up. Today's show brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Today we're talking about the most important things. We're the top 3 or so things that we saw in games 1 and 2, and we're doing it with our friend Tom Westerholm. You know, I realize I keep using your name, but people don't know you by your name. They know you by your very common nickname, T Wizzle, which I know is how everybody understands. So
listen, it's an easy mistake to make, but it's actually T Easy. Yeah, when I was a younger and handsomer man, people used to say I looked like the rapper G Easy. So it's actually that's why I've been going by T Easy as my under my platinum.
Maybe I was just going by the regionalism, because I've always known it as T Wizzle. But you know, T Wizzle, T Easy. It's you know, two
Joe
sides
Mazzulla would
of the
say
same
Wizzle.
coin.
Joe Mazzulla would say Wizzle, since
Rhode Island thing. It's a Rhode Island thing.
Rhode Island kind of thing. Yeah.
So so that maybe that helps people understand who you are more than your government name.
Right. Like the feds named me Tom Westerholm, but you know. Yeah.
So you can see the rundown on the side if you're watching on YouTube.
Big men.
We're going to start talking big men. Big men. Pat the chest. Big men come play big basketball. I think the number one most important thing that we saw is that Luke Kornet against, I know it's preseason, but it's against the Denver Nuggets team that is trying to, they're piecing some things together. They are still a work in progress, but it's still a really good team. And that's a potential someday future potential finals matchup. To see effectiveness out of Luke Kornet, to see him operate in that short roll and be a ball mover, the ball changes sides. And he's enough of a threat, enough of a ball mover where he has to just be accounted for. And that's all the Celtics need, is someone who just needs to be accounted for. And I think Kornet won. Tillman, I know you want to talk about Tillman shooting, also important. I think because I expect Kornet to get a lot of starts this season. That's the one. And also because he plays a different style. It's not like if Tillman's shooting is hitting, then it's the same stuff. You could kind of play similarly that you do with Horford or with Porzingis or all of that. Kornet is the difference. He's the stylistically different guy. To see that be effective in the first couple of games was, to me, an incredibly good sign.
Yeah, I think it was really important. I mean, I think, Kornet obviously, it's funny, right? Because I think a lot of the stuff that we saw that was like encouraging or not encouraging, whatever it is, mostly encouraging, obviously. A lot of the stuff that we saw was like stuff that it's like, okay, I think this is going to work. We're like, if you're like talking about it before the preseason starts, right? You're like, I think this is going to work because it worked last year and all the same guys are back, but you kind of want to see it, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be okay if the Celtics are without Porzingis for the start of the season, at least for a bit, because they got all this other talent around. You got Luke Kornet was pretty good last year. A lot of decent stuff out of him. Even if Al Horford needs to take a little bit of time off, that's going to be okay because the Celtics have X, Y, and Z already in place. And I mean, looking at, okay, so Tatum and Kornet, like one of their top lineups was plus 33 last year, right? It's like chances are this group is going to be pretty okay. But to see it, to actually kind of be like, okay, yes, correct, we were right. Kornet looks good. He's still rock solid. This group is still, not underselling it, right? Like they looked great. They looked, hungry. Got Jaylen and Jayson coming back in super shape after winning a championship. That's a good sign from your leaders. But then, to have like your bigs who are going to be playing alongside those guys look like a nice fit, even in what will probably be elevated roles. Yeah, that's big time. That's going to matter quite a bit at the start of the year.
Yeah, and like a lot of this stuff is stuff we've sort of seen before, and we're just looking for corrections, maybe in the Jayson Tatum stuff, or we're looking for enhancements in things that guys have tried to do, and so it's not like we're looking at completely new integration of anybody. Sorry, Lonnie Walker. If you didn't listen to the end of yesterday's show, I'll say it at the beginning of this one. I was wrong about Lonnie Walker. I was wrong to be excited about Lonnie Walker. I thought Brad Stevens had pulled a coup, and we got a 1 year prove it year from him, and we did not. We're not going to do that. So we're not going to see the integration of anybody really, really new. The closest we're going to get is Jaden Springer or Jordan Walsh. And that's okay. That's fine.
Or a elevated role for Xavier Tillman.
Or potentially, yes, an elevated role for Xavier Tillman, who hit 3 3-pointers, which is 3 more than I think anybody expected him to hit in these games, maybe the entire preseason. Yeah, it's a point that I made yesterday for sure. I don't want to overreact to 2 games, but it's also exactly what you wanted to see in those 2 games.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to slightly overreact because here's the thing, right? Xavier Tillman clearly can shoot, can like if you're talking about just like a practice, right? Xavier Tillman can make threes. He is physically capable of making 3-pointers.
Sure.
Now, Tillman also, this is total eye test stuff, right? None of this is like statistics, whatever. Xavier Tillman hit a 3 in the finals, like a pretty important one. Like if I say Xavier Tillman hit a 3 in the finals, anybody who watched the finals is like, I remember that. That felt like a big moment. And it's like, if he's going to hit a 3 in the finals, right? And then he's going to come into training camp and he knocks down a few of them. I don't know, man. I start to, okay, like you hit one in the biggest stage and now it's looking a little bit more consistent. And I mean, Tillman is such an interesting player for the Celtics, right? Like in terms of what he can bring this year, in terms of like, okay, who's this guy going to be going forward? Like what kind of a talent are we talking about with a guy who can defend the pick and roll pretty well and is just incredibly strong, and he can also hit threes? That's real interesting. Like that's okay. He can step out, especially the one from the top of the key, which is a spot that Al Horford hits from frequently, right? So like Tillman hitting threes, it's like I understand that. Yeah, don't overreact, but it's like this is clearly a focus for him, right? Because he is shooting them. Like that is a spot that he's getting to and kind of specifically shooting from. And also he looks comfortable, he looks confident, and he's starting to build a little bit of a history. I am literally talking about 5 made field goals, but I think it's important. So
it's one of those. The made field goals.
4 made field goals. I apologize. I overstated. I would hate to overstate.
I'm sure he's going to hit one on Saturday, and that'll be your 5th one.
Yes.
Look, when you're talking about somebody like Tillman, who has career 3-point percentage is in like the 20, off the top of my head, 27%, something like that.
Seems generous, but yeah, I'll look it up
Yeah,
while you're talking.
you look it up. 26, 27%, I think, maybe for his career. You don't want to see misses. You want to see makes. And when he makes them,
great pull. 26.7. Fantastic.
Woo! Pow.
Yeah.
When he makes them, you're like, yes, this is all good. Every time he has a good shooting night, yes, it's good. And look, confidence is a huge part of shooting. You know it. I know it. Like when you feel good, this is why the hot hand thing is real to me, because that just means confidence. When you got it going, let me tell you something. I know about the hot hand. I know that feeling when you're just hitting and everything once it leaves your hands, you're like, that's cash. It doesn't even hit the top of the arc of the shot. You're like, I know that's cash. You know, that feeling is so good and intoxicating, but it fuels you. And yeah, it could lead to some, maybe some people are streaky like that, but I think Tillman, the more he gets that feeling, the more confidence he has. That means the couple of misses that he's going to have, shake them off, and then you get to that next one. Shooting with confidence is such a huge part of making them regularly. Just go out there and shoot them and know it. So, like, that's why, the mentality of, I just know the next one is going in. That's even so. If you can have that mentality, I think that's a big deal, and it's a big thing for Tillman to be feeling right now. It's also a big thing for Tatum to be feeling, especially when you're tinkering with your shot. We'll continue talking about shooting. It's all about shooting. It's a big shooty show today with T-Easy, T-Wizzle. We'll talk about all
with the shooty whites. I love that.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about all of that coming up. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book, and they're giving you, NFL fans, a way to start the season with a big return. Get it? Big return, NFL. You go to FanDuel. If you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats. You can check out the play-by-play, and you can check out so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. So you don't have to be on, over your friend's house watching football, bringing a laptop or bringing a tablet or anything. Like, it's all just on your phone. You don't have to be like it's all right there. It's super convenient. All you have to do now is place a $5 bet. Your first $5 bet gets you $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. So that's a good reason to be, if you want to put some money down, do it at FanDuel. You get those $200 in bonus bets, no matter what happens to your first $5 bet. So head on over to FanDuel.com. Use the tools that they have. Make sure you're setting your budget, setting your limits, so you can have some fun without going overboard. Nobody wants you to go overboard. Take your disposable income. If you want to use it to place a few bets, do it, and do it at FanDuel.com. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Check out Locked On NBA. It is covering the whole league. It's about to go 7 days a week, and I do the show on Wednesdays with Jake Madison. So it's a lot of fun. It's a great way to keep tabs on the rest of the league. We'll be watching all of the games when the regular season starts. So you don't have to watch all of them. We've got you covered on Locked On NBA. We've also got you covered here with Tom, T-Easy, Wizzle, Dizzle, Sizzle, Tom, Jayson Tatum.
Yep.
Hit 3-pointers. 3 of 7 in each game. So one make away from a 50% stretch there. Again, confidence. We knew that Jayson Tatum he didn't forget how to shoot. He shot 39% during the regular season. So he was fine, above average 3-point shooter. I'm not expecting him to shoot 44% from 3 this season. It would be nice, but looking at that shot, I was trying to make the comparison. I went back and looked at some of his old shots. Just a tiny bit more compact, a little bit more on balance, a little less exaggerated tuck, which means just a little bit more kind of fluidity to the shot. looks good. Seems like it feels good. And I think we're going to get to a point where this storyline, once the regular season passes, kind of fades into the distance.
I think so too. I mean, that it looks so much better. Like, I think the only reason it might not fade into the distance, right, is because like it things hang on for a little while, kind of like the Joe Mazzulla timeout thing, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
and Tatum has had enough things go viral where people get to make fun of him, and people seem to like to make like other opposing fans really like to rip on Jayson Tatum. Like, he takes so much heat. Like, I the other day I tweeted something about how Jokic, Jaylen, and Tatum look great, and somebody quote tweeted it with that through the three dragons, where two of them look fierce and one of them looks like goofy or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, man. I mean, he was talking about Tatum. It's like, I don't know, man. I think Tatum looks great. I don't know. I think so. Anyway, I certainly expect people to continue to make fun of him for, you know, the dip and everything else. And but I do think that like it looks good. Like it's quick, it's snappy, and you know, it's got to be more comfortable off the dribble. I think that was, you know, he dribbled into that one shot from the top of the key on Sunday that just looked so much more natural than some of the pull-ups when, you know, when it's the big swooping, like, you know, slip into it and like off the bounce, that just never looked particularly comfortable to me. So now to have kind of a much faster, much like smoother, the whole thing just looks better. I think he and Drew Hanlon did a good job.
So I wonder, because I was really trying to look at the old shot and the new shot. I wanted to see if the timing was different or whatever. And so one thing I saw with the older shot is that his arms swung out a little bit more. So, and I know that over the course of, like, it seemed like last year he started to do a lot more of the big kind of swooping, you know, when he gets into the lane, the James Harden type of thing where you swoop your arms out and then you go into your shot. I wonder if that big swooping foul hunting move found its way into his jump shot, where the arms went out further out, and it took the form into a less than I don't know what kind of word I'm looking for there, but it just added a path that was unnatural, right? When you're shooting, you just kind of want to go straight up and shoot. And he kind of like looped it, a more circuitous route up to the shooting pocket. So where he would release it. So that's a whole lot of words, and not all of them enunciated correctly for me to say. I wonder if that foul hunting stuff found its way into his jumper. And I think the best way I could describe it is he's taken that part out and the jumper looks more fluid.
Yeah, let this be a lesson to everybody. Ethical basketball. Play basketball
ethically.
It's but no, I think that makes a lot. I mean, you talked about the pathway. I mean, it's not just the pathway of the arms, right? It's literally like, you know, you talk about neural pathways, and it's like if you're doing a lot of this stuff, you know, I mean, yeah, it could probably leak into other shots and to the point that, you know, it could negatively affect things. So I think that makes sense. And I think, you know, it's just, you talked before about the importance of just getting that percentage up a little bit. And I feel like, you know, it was funny, right? Because he shot, what was it, 3 for 7, I think, in both games. Yeah. And it's like, you know, it's not like you said before the first preseason game, like, oh, it'd be great to see, like, you know, catch fire one game or something. I kind of think these 3 for 7 performances are kind of encouraging. You look back at last year, you know, yeah, he had some where it was like, I don't know, 7 for 10 or something like that, right? Where he went completely crazy. But it's like, I think just as encouraging are games where he's just solid, because he also had so many that were like 1 for 13. It's just like, man, dude, hit one. And it's like, this is a much more repeatable motion. This is a much more compact motion, something that just looks more natural. And if you can nail that down, if you can make that a more consistent part of your game, I think you're just in much better shape of like, yeah, stack some 3 for 7s instead of having, you know, a 2 for 11 followed by a, you know, 7 for 9 or whatever it is. Like, just a little more consistent, a lot more right in the middle, as opposed to so many highs and lows.
if he shoots 3 for 7 every night, he shoots 43% for the season. And that's like Steph Curry numbers. Like that's what it is. Yeah. You know, like I will gladly take 3 for 7 every single night. Sure. And look, when it comes to a jumper, I always, not just me, but you compare it to a golf swing. You want that to be nice and tight. You want it to be as compact as possible. The less movement there is in the shot, the less chance that you're going to screw one of those movements up. Like that's just it. I think for some people, it's different. Not every shooter is the same, but it's just catch straight up, flick the wrist. There you go. Keep it all in line. And then all you got to do is dial in the power is basically it. So taking out that little extra, like seriously, he brought that ball way into his waist, and he's not bringing it all the way into his waist. Like I think he was trying to find the seams on the ball, and that's like his way of doing that. I don't know. Whatever he has eliminated, that's great, and I want to see him continue to do that. I am very curious to see if he's also eliminated the big swooping stuff in the lane, if that's part of it. Because if that stuff goes away, then I feel like it's like 2 + 2 there. So I feel like that's something to kind of watch for. Another shooter, Sam Hauser, but not his 3-point shooting is a very important part of this. And I did bring this up yesterday. I think it's so huge. We'll talk about that when we come back. There we go. I got buttons to push. And I don't know. It's sometimes I hit them and sometimes I don't. But this time I'm hitting the one that says today's show is brought to you by Game Time. It's the place to go to get you last minute tickets to anything that you're looking for. If the tickets are sold online, there's a good chance Game Time is going to find them for you. Sports, theater, music, comedy. Game Time Picks, their new feature, filters out the fluff so you only get the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste your time scrolling. They are, if you toggle on the all-in pricing, you get the number you're going to pay. There's no surprise fees at checkout. So you got to turn that on, and what you see is what you pay. You get panoramic view from your seat. The lowest price guarantee means if you find those tickets somewhere else for less, you're going to get 110% of the difference credited to you. I have used Game Time. I mentioned it before. I've used it. I get Red Sox tickets. I get a great deal on Red Sox tickets. Very easy to use the app. Very easy to get those tickets, show them. It's not complicated at all. So you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. I hope you are subscribed 5 days a week during the regular season. I will be doing post-game podcasts on the weekends whenever they play. So sometimes 6, sometimes 7 days a week. Always free. So you're going to get more podcasting here than you're going to get anywhere else. And sometimes we're going to have T Wizzle on here. And I know he likes to talk about Sam Hauser. Sam Hauser, one of the shooties on this team.
Yes.
Look, this was one of the things I mentioned in last night's show or yesterday's show in the third segment, where when you're a shooter as good as Sam Hauser is, if you can be a threat off the dribble, whether it's getting all the way to the rim or getting to a mid-range shot, if you can be really effective at that, you're just going to give yourself so much more space to shoot because guys can't close out on you. So watching him dribble into mid-range shots, dribble all the way in and like drive and dish, it's when I say one of the most important things, you could almost make a case that this is more important than Tatum's shot, because I just always felt like Tatum's shot is going to come around to some degree. Hauser, as important as he is shooting the ball, anything he can do to make that more dangerous is huge for the Celtics.
Yeah, for sure. And it's huge for Sam Hauser. I mean, you start to like like if he starts to put that stuff together, right? Like if you start to talk about like, okay, a guy who defenses are already going to panic about you, right? Like you know that guy's coming flying out to you. And like the faster somebody's coming running out to you, the easier it is to take a couple dribbles and get a wide open shot, or take a couple dribbles and draw somebody else and jumpstart your whole thing. Like you start to talk about yet another guy on the Celtics who he doesn't even have to be making. He had one really, impressive pass, right? But you're not even talking about, he doesn't even need to be making that pass specifically. You start to talk about yet another guy who can do the thing that Tatum and Jaylen do, where, somebody comes flying out, you take a dribble in, you dish it, right? Like you can do that. You can make the pull-up jumper if you need to. Hauser's already like a half decent defender. Like I think he's a little, I think the Celtics gas him up a little bit more than he deserves, but like one way or the other, like, which I get, you got to do it. But one way or the other, you talk about a guy who's an okay defender, who is a like better than you would think, probably rebounder with great size, who is one of the deadliest shooters in the NBA, and who now is starting to, like I said, stack other things. Like this starts to get real interesting pretty fast with that.
The rebounding is actually interesting because I think he had 8 in this last game. Yeah. It's like that's really important. That's really great. The stacking, the ability to do certain things is actually pretty incredible. What a progression for an undrafted player.
Yeah.
This is, you look at him, we've done this before. Like, where would you draft Sam Hauser? I think you got a little exuberant.
I may have gone. No, I apologize for nothing. I was 100% right. I'm always 100% right.
I think you drafted him 2nd overall.
I may have. I think I may have.
But regardless, so this was last season after his hot start. And then he tailed off a little bit and we're like, okay, maybe we got a little excited. But now, you see him again, you're like, okay, the way he ended the season and the way he kind of looks now, a guy that can shoot 40+% from 3, shooting off the dribble, getting to that mid-range. If he can shoot in that 55-60% on the mid-range shots, if he can get into that, hey, this is just as effective as a 40% three-point shot, then you got problems because you have to worry about it. Yeah. You can't just sit there and say, hey, the math just says let him take the 2s. If he takes the 2s and is just killing you, if he finishes a game, 7 for 9 from mid-range, you're crushed. That's you don't want to give up 14 points plus whatever else he's got. That's a 25-point game for Sam Hauser.
3 for 4 from mid-range. Like because at that point, like 7 for 9 for sure. Like you're in trouble there. If you're 3 for 4 from mid-range, you're talking about a guy who kept hurting you, and then your defense has to start to react, right? Like it's like because I don't think teams would. Maybe they would. Maybe they would. Maybe the Celtics are just so good at shooting threes that they would just say, well, we got to live with something. So here you go, Sam Hauser. Like if you beat us from the mid-range, you beat us. And then, he does. But like, even if it's less than that, just having that as an extra thing would throw so much into it. And it's interesting too, because it's right. Like JJ Redick started to do this more toward the end of his career, right? Where he would kind of, he would take like a dribble in and like, another, and JJ Redick was a lot shorter than Sam Hauser is. Like, Sam Hauser's big. Like he's a tall dude. I don't know. There's something there that's very.
It opens up a second unit where if they're playing drop coverage and they're playing a little bit of an aggressive drop coverage, hell, maybe they're playing. You're playing with Neemias Queta, and he's a lob threat, and you get that vertical spacing, or maybe it is just playing with Luke Kornet. You can flow the ball movement into a pick and roll with Hauser as the ball handler, and he can just take 2 dribbles in and take a warm up elbow jumper. And that's, You know what that is? That's a fourth quarter shot.
Yeah.
That's a fourth quarter. You need to make buckets in the fourth quarter. That's what that is.
That's a fourth quarter shot from a guy who made a bunch of shots in the NBA finals. Like, I don't mean to keep harping on that, but I think that's going to matter this year. I think you're going to see a lot of guys who made shots on the biggest stage and are now back in the regular season. It's like, there's no pressure on this shot. I made this shot in game 2 of the NBA finals.
Yeah.
What do I care about, a Tuesday night in Cleveland or whatever,
But when you're closing out a game and you're in the beginning of the fourth quarter, right? This is you close the third quarter strong, and the beginning of the fourth, you're looking to put a team away. All right. And that's when your bench is in. And here comes Hauser. And a Hauser Kornet pick and roll where Kornet is diving to the rim and there's space and he just takes 2 dribbles, boom, hits a little 15-footer, money. Now, what that means is the other team just can't make a run. They can't stack stops together because Hauser is hitting these little middies. And if you worry about that, Hauser is a good enough passer. He's not an amazing passer, but he's gonna hit the guy that needs to get the ball.
Yep.
And there are other great shooters around. It is an incredibly important thing. If that's going to be an element in his game, it is. And this is where we tend to overreact, but it is potentially a kind of a devastating development for other teams, because it's one thing that Hauser has an elite skill, 3-point shooting. Like you said before, if he's doing other things good enough, then now what? Now what?
Yeah.
Like that, because who's he going to pass to? He's going to be passing to, Drew Holiday or, Derek White,
Peyton Pritchard. The huge,
Peyton Pritchard.
Possibly the greatest player of all time. I don't know.
Oh, man. Peyton Pritchard setting up from 29 feet.
Yeah.
It's so, that's something to really, really watch for. The importance of Sam Hauser's off the dribble game is huge. So we'll see. So it's, again, weird schedule. I complained about it yesterday. I'm
very weird.
So weird. Like and especially for us trying to cover this team, they
never think about us.
Never think about us at all. We have 3 practices and then they disappear for a week and a half.
Yeah.
And now we get 2 practices Thursday and Friday before 3 games in 4 nights. What are you doing to us? Luckily, we're so lucky that this team is the continuity. It's just basically the same teams so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if this was any other, hey, we have new guys here and this and that and the other stuff, I'd be livid because when do these guys actually get to work together?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, we're just going to have to figure out another way to podcast.
So we persevere on.
Why don't people talk about us and the hardships we face more?
Well, it's because we talk about it so much.
That's true.
Those guys do all the whining. We don't have to whine for them.
Yeah, no one is as self-pitying as a podcaster.
Yeah.
All right, Tom. Appreciate you as always.
Appreciate you, man.
T-Wizzle, everybody. Find him at on X at Tom_NBA. Hey, appreciate you being with me with us this whole time. If you're still with us and you haven't subscribed, now's a great time to hit the subscribe button, whether it's on your mobile device or if it's on YouTube or, hey, both. We're 80 subscribers on YouTube away from 18,000. What better way to celebrate Banner 18 and the raising of Banner 18 in, where are we, 15 days? So 2 weeks away from Banner 18 going up into the rafters. What better way to celebrate that than with 18,000 subscribers here on Locked On Celtics? So you know what to do if you are a subscriber. That means spread the word, share the podcast, tell everybody they should be listening to and especially watching Locked On Celtics here on here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.